In the grand view of automotive history, few names stand out as prominently as General Motors Truck Company, or GMC. Since 1911, GMC has been a pioneer in the development of rugged and reliable trucks, high-quality SUVs, and other forms of utility vehicles. This niche focus on professional-grade trucks and utility vehicles has helped the company create a fiercely loyal customer base that today consists of millions of contractors, business owners, and everyday consumers worldwide. GMC has also defied the notion that specialization in the auto industry inevitably leads to stagnation. Despite focusing exclusively on trucks, SUVs, and utility vehicles, GMC has been able to proactively pioneer new technologies like automatic emergency braking and adaptive cruise control, and giving utility vehicles enhanced off-road capabilities. That's why GMC may be a mere subdivision of the American automotive manufacturing giant General Motors, in other words GM, but it has carved out a unique and enduring legacy in automotive history that overshadows most major car companies that produce a wide range of vehicle types. From supplying the U.S. military with ultra-reliable vehicles during World War II to helping multiple generations of American truckers live by the quintessential American never-back-down attitude, GMC has done it all, but the ride hasn't always been smooth. Throughout its 100-plus-year history, GMC's status as an iconic and patriotic brand has been marred by a series of safety scandals that have cost hundreds of lives. In this video, we will explore this disturbing and unexplored side of GMC's history. We'll uncover the numerous instances when GMC could have saved lives, but purposely chose not to. We'll also reveal the corporate-level decisions that led to these deadly decisions. So buckle up, because we're taking you on a ride through the most unsettling chapters in GMC's history. Mid-century mayhem, a time of reckless innovation in the world of pickup trucks and SUVs. It's the mid-20th century, a time when safety standards in the auto industry are virtually non-existent. It's also the time when pickup trucks and SUVs are becoming staples of modern American life and symbols of rugged freedom and the adventurous American spirit. Behind the scenes, a new breed of vehicle is emerging. These vehicles are brimming with dangers that key players in the auto industry are reluctant to address. This is where one of the darkest chapters in GMC's history begins, and it centers around the notorious side saddle fuel tank design. In the 1960s, GMC, along with other auto giants like Ford and Chrysler, shared a common practice: placing gas tanks inside the cab of pickup trucks. That's because it was the simplest and the least inexpensive way to design and place gas tanks in utility vehicles. However, this design posed a serious safety hazard. In the event of a collision, the gas tank could rupture and leak fuel into the cab, potentially causing a fire. As safety standards for vehicles became more stringent in the early 1970s, automakers began to realize that they needed to find a safer way to place gas tanks in pickup trucks. For many key industry players like GMC, mounting the gas tank outside the vehicle's frame was seen as the next best solution. But not every industry player was on board with this solution. Chrysler engineers in particular raised compelling safety concerns about relocating the tanks outside the frame. They argued that doing so would place the tanks in a precarious position, especially given the recently passed federal standards mandating 15-mile-per-hour side impacts for all vehicles. Any such collision could inevitably encroach on this area, and the likelihood of fuel tank leakage was deemed way too high. However, these sensible safety concerns from within the industry were overruled by GMC's management team. Instead of ditching the idea of installing fuel tanks outside the vehicle's frame rail, GMC was focused on doing the opposite. The company wanted to install not one, but two 20-gallon fuel tanks outside the frame rails of their latest vehicles. Why? Because they wanted to sell 40-gallon capacity vehicles to a customer base that was hungry for powerful utility vehicles with long ranges. So, despite all the safety concerns, GMC went ahead anyway with its plan to install two 20-gallon fuel tanks outside the frame rails of many of its latest vehicles. In 1972, GM and GMC engineers publicly stated that these design changes were safe. They also stated that in the event of a crash, the occupants of a new-age GMC vehicle would remain safe from the hazards of post-collision fuel fires. Their claims could not be more wrong. These newly designed tanks, as it would later be tragically demonstrated, were far more susceptible to ruptures, punctures, and post-collision fuel fires in crashes. The first year of their introduction saw a disturbing trend. Hundreds of fatal and fiery crashes involving GMC trucks and SUVs were recorded across the nation. By the mid to late 1970s, the situation had escalated to a catastrophic level, with hundreds of fatal and near-fatal fire crashes being directly attributed to GMC's 40-gallon capacity vehicles. The most popular vehicles involved in these crashes included the 1971 to 1973 GMC CK Series pickup trucks, the 1971 to 1973 GMC Suburban SUVs, the 1971 to 1973 GMC Jimmy SUVs, the 1971 to 1973 GMC Vandura vans, and even GMC's motorhome RVs. As the tally of fatal fire crashes mounted, GMC was compelled to explore alternative design changes. Internally, the company was well aware and extremely worried about this issue. Company memos have revealed that GMC engineers considered making several design changes to their 40-gallon capacity vehicles to make them safer during this period. They considered moving the tanks inside the frame, introducing inflammable plastic liners or bladders to the tanks, or adding external protective shields to the tanks to mitigate the risk of tank rupture. But none of these changes worked. Between 1981 and 1983, the company performed multiple crash tests on over 20 different models of their 40-gallon capacity vehicles. In each crash test, the tanks on these vehicles split like melons. Internally, the company knew what they were doing was wrong and deadly, but externally, they never admitted to these details or issued recalls until much, much later. GMC was able to hide all this evidence and much more from the public until the early 1990s, when leaks in the GMC secrecy dam started and the Center for Auto Safety began to focus in on this specific defect. By then, it was too late. Hundreds of lives were lost. Many more were injured in fires caused by leaking fuel tanks. GMC knowingly let it all happen. Here's the cynical reason why, unveiling all secrets. The shroud of secrecy that veiled GMC's actions persisted, remaining hidden from public knowledge until the early 1990s. However, once the Center for Auto Safety launched its investigation into the side-mounted fuel tank scandal, a Pandora's box of secrets was about to be unleashed. According to their investigation, GMC had, in fact, acknowledged the safety shortcomings within their 40-gallon capacity vehicles. They had even taken steps to address these issues by developing a protective steel fuel tank cage, which they thoughtfully installed on their 1978 to 83 cab chassis models, thus enhancing the safety of these specific vehicles. There was an opportunity to extend these safety measures to the CK pickups and other 40-gallon capacity vehicles, an action that could have significantly bolstered their overall fuel system integrity and safety. Internal company memos from that time revealed that then GM Vice President Alex Marr had estimated that implementing these protective shields would cost GM a mere $2.20 per vehicle, a cost passed on to the end customer at only $23 per vehicle. This was considered by many insiders as an easily achievable solution, a means to make these vehicles significantly safer. But, regrettably, neither GM nor GMC took this crucial step. At the core of this decision was a cost-benefit analysis conducted by Edward Ivey, the director of chassis engineering at GM at the time. His assessment concluded that it was economically unfeasible for GM or GMC to invest more than $2.20 per vehicle to prevent a death caused by a fire resulting from a fuel tank rupture. The implications of this cost-benefit analysis would cast a long shadow over the subsequent events, underscoring a distressing pattern in GMC's history where financial considerations were given major precedence over human lives. Aftermath. The Center for Auto Safety teamed up with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, to launch an in-depth investigation into GM and GMC's culpability in this issue. Their joint investigations revealed that GM and GMC had conspired to hide all evidence from the public and deflect all customer complaints regarding this specific safety issue. In April 1993, the NHTSA publicly asked GM to voluntarily recall all of its 6+ million 40-gallon capacity vehicles with side saddle fuel tanks. GM initially refused to comply with the government agency's voluntary recall, but eventually they were forced to recall all the defective vehicles and install protective fuel tank shields inside them for free. GM was sued by hundreds of victims and their families. In 1994, a jury awarded $105 million to the family of a man who was killed in a fire caused by a leaking fuel tank. Most of the other cases were settled privately outside of court. The U.S. Congress held several hearings on the scandal and grilled GM executives about why they had failed to fix the safety defect. The scandal also led to a number of reforms in the auto industry. In 1994, Congress passed the TREAD Act, which required automakers to report safety defects to the NHTSA and to instantly recall vehicles with major safety defects. The TREAD Act also increased the NHTSA's budget and gave the agency more authority to rapidly investigate concerns of safety defects in all types of vehicles. The side-mounted fuel tank scandal was a major turning point not just for GMC, but for the whole auto industry. It showed the world that certain automakers are willing to put profits ahead of safety. It sparked a rallying cry for greater government intervention to safeguard automobile owners and ushered in a new era of accountability. In the years since the side-mounted fuel tank scandal, both GMC and its parent company, GM, have been involved in several other safety-related scandals, including the ignition switch defect, which caused the engines of several GMC vehicles to stall unexpectedly and disable the airbags. This defect was linked to at least 124 deaths and hundreds more injuries between 2001 to 2014. The Duramax diesel engine defect, which caused a GMC vehicle's engine to overheat and catch fire. This defect was linked to at least 10 deaths and dozens of injuries between 2006 and 2010. The Takata airbag defect, which caused the airbags in many GM vehicles to deploy with excessive force, killing 19 occupants between 2002 and 2017. Thankfully, both GMC and GM have taken steps to address these safety issues way more efficiently than they did during the 80s and the 90s. That's why none of these scandals have managed to permanently tarnish GMC's brand value. Instead of being weighed down by these scandals, both GM and GMC have chosen to evolve and innovate. They've integrated state-of-the-art safety features into their newer vehicles, and they've cultivated a renewed reputation of safety and reliability among a new generation of consumers. As car lovers, we only feel one way about these developments. Long may this culture of safety, transparency, and accountability thrive in the automotive world. This brings us to the end of our journey through the darkest moments in GMC's history. We hope you've gained some valuable insights about the nuanced and cutthroat world of automotive manufacturing. For more similar videos, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Please don't forget to share this video with fellow enthusiasts of automotive history.